Welcome to this GiftWorks quick video. My name is Jonathan Lehman. This video is part of a video series in understanding how GiftWorks can be configured to work with QuickBooks. This particular video is understanding GiftWorks accounts and funds. It's an overview of GiftWorks accounts and funds and how they are used to configure the accounting requirements for your organization. It's by design that GiftWorks hides a lot of the intricate accounting details from the users that will be entering your donations and pledges into GiftWorks. It's because of this that it's very important that whoever is setting up the accounts and funds within GiftWorks has a good understanding of how those are used to ultimately determine what accounts are posted to QuickBooks. Now, this video will not go into a detailed explanation of accounting principles. It is our expectation that you have that knowledge, and if not, we suggest that you consult with an accounting advisor. Let's start by signing into GiftWorks. I'm going to show you how when you add a donation, it requires you to specify a fund or multiple funds, and it also requires you to pick a payment type. These two things, the fund and the payment type, are used to determine what accounting debit and credit accounts will be posted to QuickBooks. Notice how for the payment types that they're separated into groups. These payment types here, the check, credit card, cash, and so forth, are all part of the money payment type group. Services, goods, and equipment are considered in-kind payment types, and stocks and bonds are considered security payment types. That's an important understanding as I'll show you later. So for a donation, it's the fund and the payment type which determines ultimately the accounts that will be posted to QuickBooks. Same if I add a pledge. We'll go through these screens because the fund is actually on the final. You're required to enter a fund. So for pledges, when you're entering a pledge, not the payments, when you're just setting up the scheduled pledge payments, it is the fund and the fact that it is a scheduled pledge payment which determines the accounts that are posted to QuickBooks. So I'll actually save that so I can show you if you apply a pledge payment, very similar to a donation. When you apply a pledge payment, you're required to enter a fund or multiple funds and payment type. And again, for a pledge payment, it is the fund and the payment types which determine what accounts are posted to QuickBooks. So with that knowledge, let's go over to the settings area. Go to our accounting section, go to manage accounts and funds. Show you that when you create a new database in GiftWorks, it comes with 6 default accounts. Now when you're configured with QuickBooks, which is in another video, you'll see that you'll be ultimately bringing in those accounts from QuickBooks. But this just looking at these 6 accounts, I can demonstrate or talk about the different types of accounts that are supported in GiftWorks. You can see here that the default accounts that come, you have a cash account, which is an asset account. You have a pledge receivables account, which is accounts receivable. 2 more asset accounts, and you have a contributions account, which is an income account. GiftWorks supports these types of accounts, plus an additional account type called a liability account. GiftWorks does not support expense or equity accounts. So we'll go to the next page, which is the fund, and this is where it comes together. I'm going to just edit the general fund. GiftWorks by default comes with 1 fund, the general fund. You can set up as many funds as you need. If you edit a fund, you'll see that you have a set of accounts that you can assign to that fund. If you think back to when I was showing you the donations and the pledge payments and the different payment type groups, remember I said how if you pick the payment, you select the fund, you select the payment type, that determines the account. So if you select a general fund for a donation or a pledge payment, it would access this fund, and depending on the type of payment type, whether you picked one that was part of that money group or the security group or the in-kind, so if it was like a check or cash, it would be part of money, or securities or something would be the security group, or an in-kind gift if it was something else. So depending on the payment type you pick and the fund, it will then determine the debit and the credit account that post to QuickBooks. Notice how for each line item here, there is a debit and a credit account. That ensures that your accounts will always be balanced within QuickBooks. There are only certain accounts which can be selected for each of these. Within the debit account section here, you can select any asset account. Within the credit section over here, you can pick any income or liability account. For scheduled pledges, when you enter a pledge for scheduled pledge payments, it does not use these three lines here. It uses this pledge line here. So whatever fund you pick for the pledge, it then uses this line. And this you can pick any asset account or any accounts receivable account. And for the credit, you can pick any income account. And really, I should have explained that for these accounts, it's any asset account that's not a receivable account for these three up here. So you can see that when I enter a donation or a pledge payment or a pledge, you can see how that's going to determine the accounts. Now, to demonstrate this, I'm going to sign out and sign into a database, a different database that was configured to work with QuickBooks. That's covered in another video. Principles are the same, it's just that the accounts came in from QuickBooks. So you'll see if I go over to my settings area, manage accounts and funds, here's my accounts. And one of the things is make it a very simple demonstration by showing you the general fund and showing it. One thing in addition I want to show you here is that class can be configured once you're configured to work with QuickBooks. Class is another thing that you can specify. These classes came in from QuickBooks, and you can specify per fund what class you want to be posted to QuickBooks. That's one additional thing. But these accounts down here work the same way. I just want to show you that if it was any one of your money kind of gifts, it's going to post to the operating cash for my debit, and it's going to post to direct public support for my credit. Notice if it's an in-kind gift, it's going to go to furniture and equipment. And otherwise, credit account, it'll go to an income account called direct public support gifts and kinds goods. So remember that, and also look at my pledge receivables. That for my pledges, it's going to go to a pledge receivables account for the debit account and a pledge income account. So keep that in mind. That's for my general fund. So I'm going to go over here to Stan Bruce. I'm going to add a donation for Stan for $500 to the general fund. I'm going to leave it as a check, which remember that is part of the money group. Just save that gift. We'll go back to Stan. We'll enter a pledge. We'll enter a pledge of 2 payments. Now don't get confused. This is the expected payment type, but we don't have an actual payment type. So the payment type is not used in determining the accounts for a scheduled pledge. So we go over here. Again, it's the general fund. We're going to apply a payment. We're going to leave it to general fund. This time I'm going to change the payment type. I'm going to change it to an in-kind gift. We'll change it to goods. And we'll just save that. I'm going to show you something called the transaction register. The transaction register is ultimately what gets posted to QuickBooks. We'll review that posting process and also the transaction register in more detail in other videos. But if I view these transactions, you'll see here's the gift that I entered for Stan. It says a $500 gift, and it was to the general fund, and it was a check. So that meant that the debit account was operating cash, and the credit account was direct public support. Notice here I point out how it also determines the class, so you can see it does the general class. When I entered the pledge, it entered the debit account as pledge receivables, and the credit account as pledge income. Did that for both of the scheduled payments. When I actually made the payment, for the payment I made, it had to reverse out. It reversed out those accounts, so it did a void, and it basically did a reverse of the original transaction. So the debit account is the income account, and the credit is pledge receivables. And then when it actually did the pledge payment itself for $250, remember that was an in-kind type of payment. It was goods, so it used that in the general fund to determine that the debit account should be furniture and equipment, and the credit account should be direct public support gifts in kind. So you can see how funds and accounts are very important in determining how you post to QuickBooks. Thanks for watching this video.